Okay, thank you all for joining us. I think we might make a start and then students can come as they do. So firstly, I'll just hand over to the director of the Australian Human Rights Institute, which is Professor Justine Nolan, and she'll welcome us.
Great. Thanks so much, Matt, and welcome everybody. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us today to learn a little bit more about the Global Student Fellowship. Let me begin by acknowledging I am on UNSW Kensington campus today, so acknowledging the Bidjigal as the traditional custodian of the lands on which we gather today, recognising that sovereignty was never ceded, and we pay our deepest respects to Bidjigal elders, past and present, and we acknowledge and honour the enduring connection of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders peoples to this land, to culture, to community and to country. My job today is just to welcome you, and how we're going to run this is basically I'm going to give you a short introduction about why we developed this program and who we are at the Australian Human Rights Institute, and then I'm going to hand back over to Matt, who's going to tell you a little bit more about the logistics of the program around applications and things like that. And then Matt is also going to have an opportunity, which I think you'll love to hear from, is one of our Global Student Fellows who's recently completed the program and the experience that they had. So let me tell you a little bit about this program itself. We started it in 2021 with just 4 students, and it came from an idea that we wanted to have a greater connection with the Australian Human Rights Institute and our students at UNSW. So the Human Rights Institute is not that old at UNSW. We really started operating in 2019. And we're sort of sit within the entire university, so we're not owned by any particular faculty. And we have now over 300 academics who are associates of us and who work with us and work on research. And we also take student interns each term. But we also wanted to really have a connection with students more. And the idea for the Global Student Fellowship partly came out of my own experience working in human rights. So long before I joined UNSW, I worked as a human rights lawyer, an international human rights lawyer in different parts of the world. And in order to get that job, after first of all, I'd been a corporate lawyer for a couple of years, going down the traditional path. But in between, in order to sort of build my legitimacy and credentials for doing human rights work, I had to string together, by myself, a series of sort of always unpaid internships with various organizations in different parts of the world. And for a lot of people working in human rights, that's still the practice. You're sort of piecing together a lot of the time unpaid internships around the world. So it was really important for us that we were trying to set up a structured program that would give an opportunity for students across UNSW from every faculty and studying all different types of disciplines for a more structured pathway to get human rights experience. So the idea of the fellowship was born. As I said, we had 4 students in our first year. And last year, just a few years later, we placed 24 students. So the program has grown a lot in 4 or 5 years. And also the variety of the host organisations, which Matt will talk about more, has also diversified a lot as we've grown students who've got experience from all over the place. A key part of it for us is also ensuring that students' placements are valued so that they get financial support to do that work. And part of that means also we can attract a broader range of students so that, it's doing an internship, which otherwise if you were doing it for another organisation that you would receive financial support for. And our goal is to really ensure students get practical experience of what it's like working for a human rights organisation, small and large, understanding that some of the larger ones can be quite, bureaucratic with what you do, getting hands-on field work experience with some of them where they're doing really practical opportunities, and also an opportunity to really grow your network. Because human rights still, even though it's very vast and specialised all around the world what we do, a lot of the people that have become, great friends and colleagues of mine over the years have often grown through working together or a network where someone has introduced me to someone else. And what we've even seen with our past fellows is that continues to happen, that, they meet people at the workplace, they introduce them to someone else, and all of a sudden that network starts to grow. So it really is our goal at the Human Rights Institute to give back to students that opportunity and hopefully to send them on a path once you graduate from UNSW where you do this type of work going into the future and you understand an approach for getting that. So it's trying to really practically apply the skills that you're studying, whether it's in law, engineering, science, business, etc., and put that out into the world. So I'm now going to hand you back to Matt, who's going to talk about the application process a little bit more. And if you have some questions that you want, as he's giving information, feel free to put them into the chat, and we'll try and monitor that chat and respond as we go. And as Matt said, if you're just joining now, please add your name to the chat, tell us what faculty you're from and what organisation you might be interested in. And we really, really look forward to getting your application over the next month. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Justine. Okay, great. So I'm going to give you a little bit of information about the fellowship, the host organizations, the application process. And as Justine mentioned, if you have questions throughout, please feel free to add them to the chat. And we have Institute staff who can respond, and we'll have some time at the end for questions as well. So what is the Global Student Fellowship? So Justine's just given us a great introduction into why it was established and what we hope to get out of it. But it is a 6-week full-time placement with a human rights or international development organization. And that may be in Sydney, in Australia, or it may be in the Pacific or in Southeast Asia. So we have a variety of host organizations that we'll speak about soon. But the placements happen during our UNSW summer term. Most placements will occur during those dates from Monday, the 4th of January to Friday, the 12th of February. I think there's 1 or 2 host organizations that might start a little earlier in December, and you can find that information on the website. So that's what the fellowship is. But what do you get from it as a student? If you are selected for a fellowship, Justine mentioned that you'll receive financial support. If you're placed at an organisation in Sydney, then that amount is 6,500 Australian dollars. Or if you're placed in an international organisation, that is 8,500 Australian dollars. And the idea behind that is that it covers your expenses while you're on your placement. So if you need to pay for flights, accommodation, food, whatever. But it also recognizes that a lot of students work while they study to support themselves, or they might contribute to their families. So the idea behind this payment is that you can take that time away from your work to participate in the placement, but also to keep up with your living expenses, paying your rent, contributing to your family as you normally would. In addition to that financial support, you'll also get mentorship. So we'll pair you with an alumni of the program, and you'll meet with them before your placement and during your placement. And then there'll be an opportunity to connect with a UNSW alumni who's working within human rights at the moment, if you're interested in some support in developing your career pathway into that field. And then there's also some development workshops. So you're going to be going out into these organizations like Justine mentioned, some of them quite big global organizations. So when you do have that opportunity, how do you network? How do you build your network? So there'll be some workshops around that. And you'll also get support from the Institute throughout your program. At the end of the fellowship, you'll receive a certificate of completion. You'll get a LinkedIn digital badge, and there's a celebration event in March of 2027, which is a great night to connect with other fellows, as well as host organizations, donors, program partners. So this year we had the new UNSW Chancellor present the certificates of completion to all the students, and we had heads of faculty, as well as a lot of other people to connect with and to share your experience with. Okay, I just wanted to put this up. This is Dulansa, who went to the World Food Programme in Colombo with Sri Lanka, with Miro, who we'll hear from in a bit. So it's just an idea of, what you might be doing on some of your placements. Okay, in terms of host organizations, so for 2026-27, we have 11 host organizations, and they each kind of focus on a different area of human rights. So we encourage you to check the website. There's a little bio on the organization and a link to their website so that you can have a look at the different types of projects that they're working on and which interest you. Just note that if you're placed with a particular organization, you might be the only one there, or you might be there with other students. So in the case of Mira, who went to World Food Programme, there were 4 students that were placed there last year. And I think Mira was there with Dulansa at the same time, and then 2 other students were at different times. When you're on your placement, what you'll do will vary. So we'll hear a bit from Mira about what she did on her placement with World Food Programme, but it might be research, fieldwork, communication support, advocacy projects, policy drafting, community engagement. There's a whole range of things. And while you might be focused on one particular area, the good thing is that you'll be exposed to other parts of the organization to be able to build those networks and see how the organization runs as a whole. I mentioned that you'll be paired with an alumni of the program. And so you'll meet with them before the placement and at the end of week one. And then you'll also meet with the Institute staff midway through your placement and be added to a WhatsApp group chat with other student fellows so that you remain connected. So if you're overseas doing an international placement, you still have that connection with us and with the other student fellows. And this is Carlos. So Carlos was an alumni of the program last year, and he completed his placement at Human Rights Watch in Sydney. So those are some of the staff that he was working with there. Okay, in terms of the application process. So applications are open now. They're submitted online via a form between now, or the 22nd of June when they opened, and Sunday, the 19th of July. There are some eligibility requirements to participate in this program. The unique thing about the program is that it's open to all students. So whether you're domestic, international, undergraduate, postgraduate, from whichever faculty, you're eligible to apply. But just make sure you check the specific eligibility requirements on the website. And there's a little tick box when you submit your application saying that you've read and met those requirements. So in terms of what you'll need to complete with that form, so there's 3 sections. One is general information, so it's just asking information about your studies. As part of that, it will ask you what your WAM is, your weighted average mark. You don't need to go to the nucleus and have an official academic statement to find out that. You can just log into My UNSW and check your WAM there. If you are not sure how to do it, there's some helpful information on the website, or you can go to the nucleus and they can show you how you can access that. But I guess our point is, don't pay to have an official academic transcript. All you need to do is find your WAM for your course. And then you'll complete some demographic information, which is information about you, which will help us with your preferences and considering for placements. And then the third section is your placement preferences. So you can preference up to 3 host organizations. You need to preference at least one. You don't need to use all 3, but it's recommended. And then you'll upload some supporting documents. So that will be just a CV, a 2-page CV, just kind of detailing your work experience, some experience that you might have had with community groups, NGOs in the past, that type of information. And then you'll just answer 3 short answer questions as well about your motivations for applying for the program. So that's a key part of the application. There's word limits on them, so we want you to be concise in your responses, but also to be thoughtful and authentic. We really want to know why you're interested in this program and how you think it will help you in your future career path. And here we have Advaita, who was with Engineers Without Borders in Phnom Penh in Cambodia. And she was working on a variety of different WASH projects, but I think here it was developing a flushable toilet with less than 2 liters of water for rural and remote communities. So it was a really interesting practical project that she was contributing to. Okay, so you know a bit about the program now, a bit about what you'll get from it as a student, and a bit about the application process. So how do we select students? Well, once applications close, we go through a review period. So we'll review each application, and then we'll shortlist applicants for interviews. And those interviews will happen between those dates that you can see on the screen and on the website. So the 17th of August to the 4th of September. So usually they're held online. They might be held in person as well. We just ask that you kind of keep those dates in mind and that you're available should you receive an interview. In some cases, a second interview might be required outside of that period with the host organization. Sometimes it's just a call. They might do a reference check, or it might be a second interview. So just be aware of that too. And then once we've conducted all the interviews, we will select the fellows and we'll send out application outcomes to all the applicants in September, October of this year. If you're selected as a student fellow, there'll be a compulsory in-person pre-departure session on the 4th of November. That's where you'll get the first opportunity to meet all the other student fellows who have been selected. You'll hear from Justine again, and we'll have those workshops. So looking at how to network, create engaging media, different types of things to help you prepare. And then it's kind of over to you, November, December, to prepare for your placement. If you're traveling overseas and you need a visa or something, you'll be working with your host organization to kind of work on those logistical type details. And then you'll complete your placement during that January, February period. And then, as I mentioned, we have that end of program celebration event. Okay, Mira. So I'll leave this quote up while we have a chat with Mira about her experience, and you can have a read of it. But Mira, so around this time last year, you were considering applying for this program. Why? What made you apply for the Global Student Fellowship?
Um, Very good question. For me, it was very easy because it was a once in a lifetime opportunity. As a medical student, I think contributing to the intersection of health, global policy, human rights was something unheard of, and definitely not as a student. So, and especially being funded as well, it alleviates a lot of the financial strain of, contributing to a program wholeheartedly, taking time out of your year to do so. So for me, I saw it as an incredible chance to contribute to an organization meaningfully. You're not just passively observing, you're actually contributing to policy or making a difference. And that was something that was hugely important for me. And also just the amount of learning that you gain out of it, being able to learn from experts in the field, understand how international organizations work. There's a lot of logistics behind how the policy actually translates into real life action. So it was an opportunity I wouldn't have received anywhere else in this stage of, I guess, my career and my study.
Great, thank you. And so if you think back to when you were applying for the program, you had to submit a personal statement about why you chose your certain preferences and how that kind of aligned with your academic and career goals. If you had any advice for students that are going through that process now and answering those types of questions, what would it be?
Um, I would say my biggest piece of advice is to be specific. So, for example, rather than saying you're passionate about an issue, explain why you're passionate, explain what drove you to be interested in that particular issue, what aspect of the organization, the host organization's mission really speaks to you, resonates with you. Is there a particular area or mission that they work on that you're particularly interested in and you see yourself being able to contribute and gaining a lot of experience that will help you in the future. So I think being able to connect your own experiences, it doesn't matter how little or how much experience you've had, but I think the way that you're able to string it together to make it sound like a real story about what how you started this journey of being interested in the human rights space and what drove you to apply for this specific host organization. So there's so many out there. So please do your research into the missions, the goals of each one and see which one really stands out to you as something that you can really make an impact in and learn a lot from.
Good advice. Thank you. I couldn't have said it better. So you were placed at the World Food Program in Colombo in Sri Lanka. So tell us about your time there. What types of projects did you work on?
So I was really fortunate. So I was there with Delanza. So we actually worked on a lot of our projects together. So I was able to, so I'll talk about the ones I did, but I was also able to go see like the fortified cereal through pro-chef factories and things like that. So it's really good if you're going with other people to really like work on things together so you get an even broader insight into the program. So I was based in Sri Lanka with the World Food Program. So my most important project that I was working on was evaluating the National School Meal Program. So I developed an assessment tool that considered, I guess, metrics such as nutrition, clean energy, and also sustainability and feedback from the students, staff, parents, etc. And during this process, I was able to do field visits to the schools, which was really lovely, but also very poignant because I was able to see how the policy and how the goals of the program actually translated into real life action and how it actually translates into practice. And I was also able to have discussions with the Ministry of Education, which was really important because we were able to see their like long-term goals. And then I had to write a research report about all my findings, etc. And the second thing that I worked on was creating a nutrition focused program for the Sun Business Network's employees and businesses within that umbrella. So that was really incredible because I was able to use my medical background, but also sort of the culture and traditions of Sri Lanka to be able to create a nutrition program that could really be implemented in practice. And and as I mentioned with Delanza, I was able to go see the fortified cereal factory and get an insight into, how that was translating into nutrition for pregnant women, for example, and for young kids. So that was really incredible as well.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Sounds, I mean, I know having spoken to you quite a bit since then, it sounds like a great opportunity, as you mentioned at the start. So it's something so unique and impactful. So if you kind of think back to that time that you're in Colombo, random question, what did a typical day look like?
Um, That's actually a really fun question because I think that every day was sort of like you get into a routine really quickly and you really feel like you're part of the organization. So I stayed in a lovely, like historic hotel and I was able to just catch a tuk-tuk, 10-minute tuk-tuk to the hotel every day, which was so fun because I got to, see the beautiful parts of the island and just rest of Colombo. And when I got to the office, it was usually me and Delonza and a couple of other staff members. We were all sort of in the same room, so it was lovely to talk to them about their work, their experiences. They have so much experience in this field, so it's really worthwhile to have conversations with staff members at the host organization. Um, so we started off the day doing a little bit of theory. So if that means writing a research report, planning our questionnaires, just doing a lot of logistical things like that. And then we'd often have a meeting. So whether that be with our host organization mentor, who was sort of supervising our project, or with any other staff members, or sometimes be a group meeting where we'd have, all the staff members. There was a lot of different portfolios within WFP. So talking to the different portfolios, etc. So a lot of interactive meetings, etc. And then we'd often do a field visit, whether that be to a school, an online conference call with schools and principals in northern Sri Lanka, for example, which was really incredible to be a part of, etc. And then we'd often go home maybe by 4, 5 o'clock. And then I guess the really lucky thing for me is I had people there, for example, Delonza and the other students that came as well towards the end of my time there. So we were able to meet up after, at the end of the day, and we were able to go for lunch, for a walk along the beach. All the hotels are right on the coastline, so it's actually super beautiful. And we were able to talk about our day, debrief, and that made it really nice. And the food's incredible, so.
Mm,
I really think, and I think all the UNSW staff can probably attest to this, but not only should you like immerse yourself in the organization, but also in the culture, traditions of the country, or even if it's just Sydney, Melbourne, like of the community that you're a part of. It really makes a difference to your experience.
yeah, great. Did you have a favorite food
A favorite
or a
food. To be
favorite
honest,
cafe or restaurant that
um,
you went to?
there's a place called Upali, which is like everyone recommends it when you go there. The food's really spicy, so just be careful. But they have like incredible like fish curries and fish fries and things like that. But it's definitely like I really wanted to try local cuisine, so that was really good for me to try it. So I really recommend that.
Yeah, thank you. Last question, and then we'll hand it over for any questions from our students. But so has the Global Student Fellowship helped you decide what you want from your career, and if so, how?
I think absolutely. I think the fellowship really reinforced that I wanted a career that combined sort of clinical medicine or like my stereotypical degree with a broader systems level impact. So I wanted to work alongside people developing policies, developing programs, being quite hands-on. Because again, I think for me was like improving health isn't just about individual patients, it's also about building sustainable infrastructure that addresses the underlying social determinants of health. And I think that doesn't just apply to medicine. I think it also applies to engineering, law, etc. So being able to take a step back and look at those system levels impact is something that I now know that I really do want to be a part of. And I want to have a career that I'm able to give back to communities, but also develop very equitable policies and infrastructure, particularly for vulnerable populations.
Great, thank you. Well, thanks, Mira. We really appreciate you taking the time to share your experience. That kind of ends the formalities of this webinar. So we wanted to hand it over to you now, potential applicants for this program, to ask any questions that you have of us, the Institute staff, or Mira about her experience at World Food Programme. So if you do have a question, please feel free to pop it in the chat. It's easier through the chat rather than unmuting, because then we can kind of upload these questions as well, in case other students have some. So I can see that some have been asked and answered of Institute staff. I'm just having a scroll through. There was a question about the compulsory pre-departure session, if there's a virtual option for those based outside of Sydney. Yes, we had a student who was based in Perth that completed the fellowship last year. So if there's a way that you can participate in person, great. But if not, then there'll be provisions there for you. So there's another question about WAM. So if you don't have a WAM yet, what should you put on the application form? So if you're a new student to UNSW and you haven't yet completed a full term, then it's worthwhile putting your WAM from your most previous course, your most recent course. So if you're doing a master's now and you've just completed your undergrad at another university, then put that WAM there, and we might contact you for an academic statement or something from that university to verify that. How many applications does a fellowship usually receive per year? So I can tell you that, yeah, Justine's been answering as I'm talking. Last year we had just over 200, which was great interest in the program. And we're kind of looking at ways that we can engage and involve students that aren't successful in receiving a fellowship, just acknowledging that a lot of people do want a career in human rights, how we can help support them outside of this fellowship program as well. But there is great interest, which we're happy to see. And hopefully you've seen the promotions around campus on the TV screens, or you might have heard me come to your class and speak. This might be a good one for you, Mira. What would you say was the biggest challenge of undergoing your fellowship?
That's a good question.
I can think of an answer, but I don't want to respond for you.
I guess, okay, to be very honest, when I was going to Sri Lanka, they were recovering from a cyclone and there was flooding, etc. So I think for me it was very logistics because we did have to, swap around a lot of the dates. We did have to be quite flexible. So I guess for me it was just getting there. That was my main challenge. But in terms of just, I think speaking to a lot of like my fellows last year, I think a challenge is just like being able to find your footing those first couple of days because obviously you're in this massive organization, they have so much going on. So sometimes you do feel like you may not have the guidance that you require at the beginning, but just being able to be flexible, but also proactive in sort of reaching out and asking. They haven't forgotten about you. They're just really, really busy. So I think just finding your footing that way, I think was the hardest. But by the end of it, I think we all felt very integrated within the organization and felt very, very supported. So yeah.
Great, thank you. Yep, that's what I was going to mention as well. So we definitely appreciate flexibility in terms of what Mira mentioned. If there's unforeseen circumstances, then we really appreciate that flexibility from students. And I guess, yeah, to your point about being kind of kind to yourself, you're being put into a new environment with a whole new group of people. You're not expected to kind of make friends and connect with everyone immediately, or know what you're doing. So just being kind to yourself and allowing yourself that time to settle in and get comfortable in that new environment. Okay, so just reading through the questions. Yep, so we had some about how many students join Engineers Without Borders. So we have 5 placements at Engineers Without Borders. There's usually 2 students that are placed in Cambodia, 2 in Timor-Leste, and 1 in Vanuatu. Okay, there's good questions about visas, but I think Justine's got that. So it is your responsibility if you do need a visa. So the host organization will support you. So you might need a visa introduction letter, which they'll produce for you. But it is your responsibility. So it's definitely worthwhile checking with the embassy of the country that you will be placed at, what the requirements are, depending on the visa length.
And Matt, can I just jump in? One of the things I would
Yeah,
say is some people are asking about how you craft a good application. Part of it is trying to relate the experience that you've already gained so far, or your passions or your interests and the courses you're undertaking to the Global Student Fellowship. So, think about what you've done in the past that would highlight that would give us a signal that you're interested in human rights and development work. And so, while your CV should list all your experience, it might be that, you particularly focus on those a little bit more to give us an idea of why you're doing that. Because we really are trying to not only help students go on that path, but also reward students that have tried to make efforts and go that way already.
Thank you. There's a question here about considering this fellowship to link with an honours program. Do we just flag that in the application? So this is a standalone program that's not for credit. So if you have any questions like that are specific to you and your program, then it might be best to email us and we can find the answer for you. Just a note on that though, if you are an engineering student, you can apply for credit for your industrial training by participating in this program, as well as if you're a business student, there's an opportunity to get credit to your program as well. Okay. How many students usually apply for Engineers Without Borders? We do get a good number of students apply. I don't know exactly the numbers offhand, but I guess it's just to Justine's point about kind of relating it to your experience and how you see this fellowship helping you in your future career path. Yeah. Okay. I think the questions have been asked and answered. If you've got any last ones, then feel free to pop them in the chat. We'll hang around for a few more minutes. If not, on the screen, you'll see a QR code that you can scan to subscribe to our Human Rights Defender newsletter. So within that, you'll get information about the Institute. As Justine mentioned, we have over 300 academic members of the Institute who are working on research in human rights. So it's a great opportunity to read about their research. Potentially, you might want to be involved. You can reach out to those people, see if there's an opportunity for that. You'll also hear about other events and get updates on the Global Student Fellowship. So a reminder that applications close on the 19th. Yeah, and we'll post any other kind of updates or events as they come through. But we might leave it there. So as I mentioned, we'll stick around for a few more minutes. If you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. Otherwise, thank you for your time. Thank you to Mira for sharing her experience. Thanks, Justine, as well. We hope to see your applications. And if you've got any questions that you didn't ask here, feel free to email us. Our email address is on the website, humanrights@unsw.edu.au. We've got a last question. Are the applications assessed on a rolling basis? Is it better to apply earlier? They're not, no. So we'll only start assessing applications after the closing date. So really take the time to think about how you can best respond to those short answer questions. But do make sure that you apply before the deadline. We won't be accepting late applications. Thank you all again. Have a great day. And yeah.